Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Oh Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada Shri Radha Giridhari ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashta Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So thank you dear devotees for giving me an opportunity to present in front of you something which I have learned from Srimad Bhagavad Purāṇa and I would like to share in front of all of you here. So first of all, I want to share a few appreciations. I'm quite amazed by the beautiful architecture which I got to see here today when I arrived. This is one of the first temples, or second temple which I've seen on the West Coast. I have not visited many temples before in the West Coast. The first was LA, which I saw, and now this is the second one. But the magnificent architecture here, the beautiful artwork on the walls, and this 3D design is so beautiful, isn't it? So we have Govardhan Dhari on all the four corners. Which other temple has such beautiful embossed designs available? I don't think any other temple I'm aware of in North America has such features. So all of you are very fortunate, and I'm also very fortunate to visit this beautiful temple, which has such beautiful design, interior design here. It's an offering to Srila Prabhupada. And then on top of that, the deities here, they are like perfectly, beautifully dressed. I mean, their sizes are so cute. It literally looks like that Krishna has taken a small size to lift up the hill, and he looks so beautiful with Srimati Radharani. And the dresses, oh my God, they're such a piece of art. I'm not sure who has put so much hard work into it, but the dresses look really impeccable, and the garlands too. They're matching the deities. So very fortunate to be present in such a wonderful temple. And I know the reason why is it so. Why is it so beautiful here? The reason it's so beautiful because we have the blessing of many, many wonderful disciples of Srila Prabhupada here. There are not many of them left in this world. They're a rare, very rare breed. And we have many of them. I just met Mother Chatura and then Pravida Prabhu, whom I have heard for many, many years. So I just can't imagine my good fortune that I'm present in their graceful presence here and being able to speak something in front of them. So I seek their blessings of wonderful Prabhupada disciples here and senior devotees that I can share something for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. So the topic of today's talk is what NASA can learn from Srila Vyasadeva. And that'd be great. We may have to go down to okay. The humming is coming from the projector. So this presentation is started about NASA can learn from Sri Vyasadeva. And the reason why I have titled this is because in this presentation I will share with you how. Oh, thank you. Okay. So from the reason why I have titled this presentation this way, because in this presentation we'll find out that there are so many things which great scientists and great scientific organizations can learn from our Puranas and Vedas. So why I went into this world? The reason I went on this journey, because back in 2014 when I left my school, I was studying PhD at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, studying computer science there. And when I was studying there, one day in 2011, I happened to meet a devotee. And he handed me a copy of Bhagavad Gita. I said, this I already know. Don't teach me this. And then he said, okay, if you know about this, do you know about Srimad Bhagavatam? I said, what is that? Never heard of that book in India. So he hands me a blue copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, and I take it home. And I'm thinking, I'm supposed to be coming from a Hindu background. I'm the one supposed to know this. And here is a devotee who's handing me this out in the Western world. I got to do some homework here. Because if I call myself a spiritual person, I should know the books which are coming from my home country, And that led me on this journey of finding out Krishna consciousness. He fed me a lot of prasadam, a lot of wonderful association, wonderful books. And the result is that a few years later, I quit my PhD and joined the ashram. Hare Krishna. But Krishna, like in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, he had, when he did his meditation, he had no desire to become the king of the world. But in the same way, I had a desire to become a so-called scientist in my life. But a few years later, I happened to meet another devotee. He said, you should use your scientific skills in doing something for science and using that for Krishna's service. I said, okay, let me give it a try. And we worked on something together with, I think, some of the devotees, you may know him. His name is Madhavendra Puridas. He's a good friend of Davida Prabhu also. And him and I worked together on this research project. And then the COVID came, so gave us more time to work on it. And then we published this book. So in this book, what I talk about is that when many of us who are coming from Hindu backgrounds, or those who are from devotee communities, when you go to school, you find yourself in a bipolar world. Why do I say bipolar world? Because there is a world in which you live in when you come to the temple. It is a world of the Puranas. It's a world of the stories of Krishna and different avatars. But when you go out in the scientific world, you find that they're speaking a completely different story. How long can you stay in this two kind of world? One day you go outside, you wear a different shirt, and you come into the temple, you wear a different shirt. I couldn't stand that for a long time. So how do we get rid of this bipolarity? So in search of this is what led me to go deeper into the Puranas and to go deeper into the writings of Srila Prabhupada. Because in Srila Prabhupada's writings, there is solution to all the problems which we can think of right now, or which we can think in future, or which we can't even think of. So he writes, which I will ask some of you to speak. Do we have a mic for the audience? Okay, I can use this one. Can you speak? So here's a quote from Srila Prabhupada from Shri Ishopanishad. Can you say it loudly? It's on. One more time.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Okay. In India, if one person tells another, "You must do this," the other party may say, "What do you mean? Is this a Vedic injunction that I have to follow without any argument?" Vedic injunctions cannot be interpreted, but ultimately, if you carefully study why these injunctions are there, you will find that they are all correct. Sri Ishopanishad intro.
So right in the Ishopanishad, which is one of the first books which we study in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada says, if we study these writings of the Vedas, we'll find them they're correct. But how? So he gives a formula for that. What is that? Can you read that formula?
This side?
The second quote, yeah.
The Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. These two important books of knowledge should be thoroughly studied by all men in the scientific world. These books would give many clues to scientific progress and would indicate many new discoveries.
So that's it. That is in front of. So that is what I did. I just minutely and very in a focused manner studied the Srimad Bhagavata Purāṇa, and it gave me all the clues I needed to come up with this. Mind you, I mean, I look so-called scientist, but I'm not so that smart. But the writings of Srimad Bhagavatam and the Purāṇas, they already have all the jewels. We just need to go there and discover them. So I did, and what I found was lots of extraordinary findings which show that what Purāṇas are saying and what modern science is saying, they're actually coming to come together. In fact, Purāṇas have been saying that for longest time, for millions of years, and modern science is coming to a place in the last couple of decades that they're coming to a place where now they're not accepting what is said in the Purāṇas. So I will share three extraordinary findings. I have my book here, which somebody like, you can read along. In this book, I share about more than a dozen findings from the Purāṇas, and I will share only here three findings because given the time we have. And what are those are? So I will talk about the greatest mass extinction, which is described in the Purāṇas, and I will see how does modern science talks about it. I will talk about the life cycle of the sun, the birth, its process of energy generation and its death. And then I will also talk about the origin of the universe and the age of the universe. A famous scientist used to say, Carl Sagan, if many of you have seen the old 80s shows, he used to say, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So what is our claim? Our claim is that the Purāṇas, the Vedas, which are written millions of years ago, thousands of years ago, they are factual. They're not mythology. That is our claim. That's a very big claim. We're talking about an ancient civilization saying something in paper, coming out to be true. So before we go on this journey, I need to give you a small primer on Puranic time units. So in the Purāṇas, there are time scales which are as small as a winking of an eye, and they go as long as millions and billions of years. What are those? There are four which we all know: Satya Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Kali Yuga. They four together make one unit which is called as Chatur Yuga or Divya Yuga. 71 of those make one Manvantara, and 14 Manvantaras make one Kalpa. That's it. We don't need anything more sophisticated. So what I found was we talk about Sandhyas. There's a morning Sandhya, afternoon Sandhya, evening Sandhya. And we know there's a Sandhya between the Yugas, there's a Sandhya between the Manvantaras, but the Sandhya between the Kalpas was not discussed by scholars or acharyas before. And I found there's a big section of discussion on that in the Vayu Purana and Brahmanda Purana. The moment we bring that in, it changes many of the calculations. Second thing, what I found was that the Bhumandala and the Earth, they have a temporal factor which connects them. Why I say that? First of all, what is Bhumandala? There are 14 lokas as per the Puranas in a Brahmanda. We are in which loka? Anyone? Bhuloka or Bhumandala, which is the middle one, the seventh one. And above us there are 6, and below us there are 7. So Bhuloka has features such as 7 oceans, oceans of milk, oceans of yogurt, has Meru mountain, which is inverted golden mountain, huge. But has any of us seen those? The Meru Mountain, the 7 oceans? No, we don't see them. We only see oceans of salt. Nobody has seen the ocean of liquor, ocean of milk. If you have seen it, you can let me know. We can solve the problem of milk in the temples. So that's not there. So what we understand is that our earth is only a 3-dimensional portion of the higher dimensional Bhumandala. Bhumandala is huge. Just like when we go to Vrindavan. When a great devotee goes to Vrindavan, what does he see? He sees Krishna and Balaram's pastimes. He sees wonderful palaces of Krishna. He sees wonderful sweet places of Krishna. Whereas when we go, what do we see? Sewage. We see pigs. We see dirt. We see trash. So similarly, because of having Kali Yuga eyes and conceptions, when we see the material world, we only see a 3-dimensional material world. We don't have access to the higher dimensional Bhumandala, to which Shukadev Goswami had access to, Vyasadeva had access to when they were talking about it. So given that, the space and time are interrelated, as we understand, our earth is only a small portion of it. What I propose is that the time also changes when we calculate between our earth and the Bhumandala. And this is not a new feature in modern science. In modern science, the theory of relativity allows for time to travel at different speeds. It's a known concept. In fact, in the Purāṇas, we hear of the story of King Kukudmi. King Kukudmi one time went to Brahmaloka, and he said, I want to find the best match for my daughter. This is the dream of every father. He wants to find the best match for their daughter, isn't it? Satyajit, yes. So now he said he wants to go to, Brahma, and he said, Brahmaji, please help me with my daughter's bridegroom. Brahma said, okay, give me a minute. Let me finish what I'm doing. So he came back after a minute, and then Brahma says, okay, how can I help? Well, here's a list of people. Can you help me choose who's the best among these guys? I don't know which one to marry my daughter to. And Brahma started laughing. Ha, 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 ha. He said, why are you laughing? He said, hundreds of generations of these bridegrooms have passed away. Their kingdoms have been vanished. Why? Because a moment here in Brahmaloka is equal to millions of years on Bhumandala, and all that time has passed. So now there's a new generation, new people. And I will tell you who's the best match for your daughter. First of all, what's the name of King Kukudmi's daughter? Whoever tells that, they will get extra sweet at the end. What's the name of King Kukudmi's daughter? Anyone here? Yes. What's his name? What's her name? Yeah, Revati. Haribol, you get one and he gets one. Forgetting the second part, which is Lord Balaram is the match. So Brahmaji said, yes, go marry your daughter Revati to Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram ki. So Balaram is here on the altar, by the way. Those of you who have come for the first time, there's Krishna on the right side and Balaram on the left side. So Lord Balaram married. So there's a concept of time travel and time dilation in the Purāṇas. It's not a new concept. And what I propose here is that the time factor between the earth and the Bhumandala is a factor of 2. If you don't accept it, it won't change much. But if you accept it, it makes it a little easier to understand. Why? I'll explain in the future. So let's now look at the 3 extraordinary findings which I'm going to talk about. The first finding is Earth's greatest mass extinction. So until 1960s, the scientists or the paleontologists didn't understand, they didn't expect that there were mass extinctions. But somewhere in the 1670s, they started finding out that when you go down in the layers of the earth, you find at a certain point, there's a big reset of all the fossils. And they started discovering that there were many catastrophic events in the past in which many species got wiped out at once. There are many of them. But the one which was the most significant one, which I think many of your kids can tell if they go to school here, was the Permian mass extinction. This is the biggest mass extinction known in the history of the humanity. And it happened 251.9 million years ago, as per the scientists. This is like most recent dating. Now, as per the Purāṇas, which is the biggest mass extinction, or which is the biggest pralaya? It is the Matsya Avatar pralaya. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this pralaya was as if the Brahma was chanting or doing his service, and he took a small nap. Like when we chant, sometimes we fall asleep. So like that, he was doing his work, and he took like a midday nap, and he woke up, and there was like a big mass extinction. So this is the Matsya Avatar pralaya. There's a pralaya at the end of every manvantara, and this pralaya happened at the end of Chakshusha manvantara. Chakshusha manvantara is the 6th manvantara. Now we're in the 7th manvantara. So if we count it back, what date you get? You get 252 million years. The difference is mere 0.3% between what the modern science claim to be the biggest mass extinction and what the Purāṇas say to be the biggest mass extinction. And it doesn't end here. Matsya Purāṇa describes how this mass extinction happened. What are the different features? Now, many of you have heard Matsya Avatar Pralaya means flood. Flood is the last thing. There are many other things which happened before that. And Matsya Purana explains there was a volcanic eruption, there was anoxic oceans, there was acid rains, different features are described. And they also match up with what is being found by modern science. And not only that, the Puranas also explain that at the beginning of Vaivasvata Manvantara is when the life will be reset. We understand that Manu, Vivaswan will be established, and when he comes, that's when the life gets situated on the Bhumandala. And that's exactly the same time which the scientists say 7 to 10 million years after the mass extinction. So the Puranas and paleontologists, they agree about this very significant fact, which is the most important mass extinction in the history of the earth. The paleontologists, they use millions of dollars, probably billions of dollars, thousands of scientists, and tens or decades of years. And they come to the same discovery, which is stated plainly, very plainly, by Srila Vyasadeva in the Puranas. They talk about when it happened, how it happened, and when it ended. And we have precise numbers. There are many other ancient cultures which talk about great flood. There's a great flood in the Bible, there's a great flood in the Quran, there's a great flood in the Native American tradition. But nobody gives a precise date. Nobody gives a precise description. They just state it plainly. Why? Because they're kind of like relics or leftover relics of the Vedic culture. But the Vedic culture or the Bhagavatam or the Puranas, they give very precise information about these events. So that was the first one. The second one, life cycle of the sun. So let's go further back. On the right side, you see a famous person. His name is Hans Bethe. Hans Bethe received Nobel Prize. When? In 1938. For what? For discovering how sun produces its energy. Like if I were to ask you, look at the sun and tell me, how does sun produce energy? What would you guess? Now we know fusion, but back in the day, they had no idea of fusion. So they were guessing maybe there's a big coal, maybe there's some other kind of fossil fuel which is burning so much energy for a long time. But none of the chemical reactions seem to work. It was Hans Bethe, only very recently, in 1938, he discovered, okay, it must be the fusion, and he discovered the reactions, and he got a Nobel Prize for that. But now, when did it happen? How it happened? There's a video, but we don't have so much time, so we'll skip that for now. So, okay. So as per the Puranas, when is the sun created? The sun is created, or the whole solar system is created at the end of Brahma's night. So Brahma is awake for one day, and Brahma is sleeping for one night. That's like us. But he has a very fixed schedule. He sleeps for one kalpa, and he stays awake for one kalpa. Right now we are in his awake period, because if he will be sleeping, we will also all be sleeping in Mahavishnu's body. So he's awake right now, but we have been halfway through his day. So just half day before of Brahma just woke up from his sleep, and when he woke up from his sleep, what he did? He started the creation process of the whole Brahmanda. And the first thing he starts to create in the Brahmanda is the sun. So when it happened? If you look at it, it happened 6 manvantras ago, which comes out to be 4.562 million years, which means 4.562 billion years ago. Sorry, billion years ago, not billion years ago. Billion years ago. Now, if you look at the sun, to find out the date for the sun, for the age of the sun, is not a very easy thing. Because what you have to do is you have to look at the sun, scientists. They have to find out the chemical reactions. They have to find out how much of those reactions have already happened, how much of the byproducts are there from the fusion reaction. And based upon that calculation, they find out what is the composition of the sun, and then they back calculate. Okay, so this is the composition of sun right now. So it must be the case that this is the age of the sun. So the most recent number on the age of the sun is 4.567 billion years. Very easy to remember, 4.567. The difference between 4.567 and 4.562 is mere 0.1%. Over the years, over the last 50 years, their date for the age of the sun has come every step closer, closer, and closer, what is being said in the Puranas. Not only that, our Puranas also explain that the sun actually burns apa, which is another word for hydrogen. But for the longest time, the Puranic scholars didn't understand how can hydrogen be the source of energy. But now we know it is, because it's through the process of fusion. It doesn't end there. Talk about the future. The Srimad Bhagavad Purana explains that in future, half of day of Brahma is finished, but when the another half ends, what happens? The whole Brahmanda gets destroyed. Since almost half has passed, what is left is around 4.69 billion years. And that is precisely what the scientists also estimate is the life left in our sun. In fact, our scientists claim that our sun will become a red giant. That is exactly given in the Bhagavad Purāṇa 12th canto. That during the end of sun's life cycle, sun won't have any more hydrogen left, and it will become huge in size and it will become a red in color. Same understanding of the modern science. Modern science say that at the end of sun's life cycle, it won't have hydrogen enough to do fusion. So it will end up doing some other kind of chemical processes to produce energy, and because of that, its temperature will reduce, and instead of being orange or yellow, it will become red. So the Purāṇas and now the astrophysicists, they coincide. About what? They agree when the sun was born, how the sun produces energy, and what will happen to sun in the future. And this is all plainly stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, which was written by Srila Vyasadeva, who was sitting on the bank of a river with a kamandalu in his hand and a palm leaves and some nice quill. No big telescopes, no satellites, no chemical reactions, but a heart-to-heart connection with who? Lord Hari, Lord Giridhari. Srimad Bhagavad Purāṇa ki jai. Third one, which is, keep going, origin of the universe. How the universe came about. So, the scientists, they had a lot of different opinions on this. In fact, until 1900s, scientists opposed the idea that universe could have a beginning. Any guesses why? Why were they opposed to the idea of universe having a beginning? Yes, mother? You are the most clever one, servant. Yes, see? One time Hari bol from Mother Chatura. So that's the intelligent answer, because if there's no beginning to universe, what that means? No God. You know, if you say there's no beginning, there has to be no God. Because the moment you say there's a beginning, you have to say who created it. So until 1900s, they were evading this question. But in 1930s, a mistake happened. There's a guy named Hubble. He came around and he started observing the galaxies. And he saw, oh, the galaxies are going further away from each other. They all are going further away. So the universe must have had a beginning. It can't be the case. They must have started from a common place if they're going away. So that led to them accept, okay, we have to accept there must be a beginning. And actually Einstein, when he had formulated his general theory of relativity, his theory had also postulated that there must be a beginning. But what he did, he tried to act cunningly. He was kind of like a theist, but also an atheist in some sense. So he had put in an extra factor in his equations to hide the fact that there could be a beginning. Later he said this was the biggest mistake on his part. He said this was the biggest mistake he could have made. And he accepted that. So, starting in the 1930s, they started looking for when did the universe originated? What's the history of the universe? And then in 1980s, until 1980s, they had a very rough estimate. They said universe must be 10 to 15 billion years old. But nobody had any idea how to find out the beginning of the universe. Very difficult, or when did the Big Bang happen, or when did the inflation happen? In the 1980s, there were a group of scientists, they were working on sending out signals at the lowest possible frequency, and they were observing this noise on their antenna. They thought maybe there's some birds who are pooping on the antenna. So they went up, they cleaned out the whole thing, came back down, still the noise is there. So then now they got frustrated. So then Krishna gave them the intelligence. Let us go and talk to other scientists. So they went to see another group of scientists across in Princeton and said, hey, we have found this thing, we can't understand. He said, really, you have found this? Because we have been working on this theory regarding the radiation from the inflation phase of Big Bang. And we were looking for some experimental data to support it. And your data seems to match with what we're looking for. And this is called cosmic microwave background radiation, which is the first radiation which comes out in just after the inflation period in the Big Bang model. So when they back calculated using that radiation, they were able to get little rough estimate of the age of the universe. And they came up with a number that the universe must be 13 to 15 billion years old. But still not accurate. So in 2001, European agency, they sent out this satellite. They said they want to be the first one to go and map out this cosmic microwave background radiation. And they found out that yes, the universe is roughly 13.7 to 13.9 billion years old. Then NASA said, how can we be behind? They said there are satellites. So the latest estimate in 2020 is 13.801 billion years. That is the estimate from the satellites thrown by NASA and European space agencies. What do the Purāṇas say? The Purāṇas talk about the cycle of reconstruction and destruction again and again. We talked about one already, which was the pralaya at the end of Manvantara. At the end of every Manvantara, there is a pralaya, destruction. At the end of Kalpa and beginning of a Kalpa, there is again a pralaya and reconstruction. We talk about the beginning of the sun. Now, at the end of Parārdha also, there is a destruction. This is discussed in Srimad Bhagavad Purāṇa. And the last Parārdha ended very recently. In fact, right now, we are in the first day of Brahma's life, Brahma's 50th year, which means this is Brahma's happy birthday. So we could have a happy birthday cake for Brahma every day here on the altar, because he's our main acharya of our Guru Parampara. Just like we celebrate birthdays for all the kids in the community, Brahma also deserves a birthday party, but it will go on for a long time. So if you look at that, when did that happen? Right now we are in the second Parārdha, and the first Parārdha just ended. When did it end? It ended just before the previous night of Brahma. So we just need to back calculate that period, the night of Brahma plus the half day of Brahma, and it comes out to be 13.819 billion years, which is 0.01% different from what the modern science says. So as we go closer and closer, we're finding the science is coming closer and closer to the Purāṇas. Now there's another point. We hear from Srila Prabhupada, the number of books, there is no Big Bang, because he says, scientists usually make this claim that the universe came out of nothing. But we don't have to accept that, because there's a big group of scientists who propose that it was not a Big Bang, it was a big bounce. What does big bounce model means? It means there was a universe before our universe. It had just collapsed into some kind of singularity, and it came back from it. And there's a big group of scientists at Stanford, Steinhardt group, which support this. And our hope, or not our hope, our proposition is that then in future, that group will come out to be victorious, because that is what is supported in the Purāṇas, that there was a universe before this also. Because we hear Brahma has been living for 50 years. It's not that there was nothing before that. There was a universe before that. So we say big bounce. So here in this third data point, we talked about how we talked about how the Purāṇas and cosmologists, they are united on this forefront. In fact, there's an interesting thing. Apart from the cosmic microwave background radiation, there is no other third way to check or verify what the cosmologists have found about the age of the universe, because there's no other much tools. Purāṇas provide the only available impartial tool to verify what cosmologists have found out, because it is independent. It's not based on their current tools, which are they only have one piece of evidence there. So what we found out that they are united on this point of when the universe began, what was before the universe, at least some scientists agree, and what happened in the universe. This is something which I discussed in more detail in my book, The Big Bang and the Sages, which you can grab afterwards if you like. So after hearing these wonderful, extraordinary points, one may wonder this question: how did Srila Vyasadeva get this data? Let's hear some answers. How did Srila Vyasadeva get this data? How did he find out this such precise information which is given in the Purāṇas? He got it from his guru. Okay, very good. From the heart. Yes, I gave that before, from the heart. So many times, the people who don't have faith, they propose all kinds of crazy solutions. So what do the atheists claim? They claim, first thing, it was a guesswork. He was sitting and he came up with his very creative mind and he wrote down this story, and it just happened to be true. So in my book, I calculated the probability of this, any guy who coming together and writing this story with dates coming out so precisely. The probability of that, of somebody guessing this dozen dates or dozen set of information which is given in my book, is that if all of you were to sit here and I were to tell all of your credit card numbers sitting here in one go correctly the first time, is it mathematically possible? Yes. But is it sane? No. I may have to be admitted to the hospital if I make such a claim. So we have to throw that option out. It's not guesswork. Some people claim, oh, aliens. It was aliens who came, who wrote the Purāṇas and Srila Vyasadeva, and he gave the information to them. Now we should ask them back, if it was aliens, why they gave the information and ran away? They should have ruled all the slave human beings and make, a lot of money, a lot of health, Who wouldn't want free slaves? Everybody wants. So that also doesn't work. Why just give them a book and run away? It doesn't help them. So we're left with one and only option, which many of you already guessed, that it comes from Krishna. So who has the mic? Somebody has the mic. Can you read this for us, Prabhu? Can you see this? It's a little small. You can come up and read.
The Vedas are not a compilation of human knowledge. Vedic knowledge comes from the spiritual world, from Lord Krishna. Another name of the Vedas is Shruti. Shruti refers to that knowledge which is acquired by hearing. It is not experimental knowledge. Shruti is considered to be like a mother. We take so much knowledge from our mother. For example, if you want to know who your father is, who can answer you? Your mother. If the mother says, here is your father, you have to accept it.
Thank you. And then here, afterwards, Srila Prabhupada also says that, if you were to find out yourself through logic, it would take a long time. You have to go around the whole world asking who your father is. Simple thing is, ask your mother. Similarly, we can spend the time with cosmologists, and astrophysicists and paleontologists and look for the history of the universe and the world. Unless we happen to be the scientists, there's no need for spending so much money and time on it. Because we can ask our mother, the Vedas, Srimad Bhagavad Purāṇa, and get the answer very clearly. And why is there so much information given in the Purāṇas? That brings to the next part. Why he gave all this information, Sri Vyasadeva? He gave that so that we can take benefit of the Vedic knowledge in the form of Srimad Bhagavad Purāṇa, in the form of Bhagavad Gita. Because this knowledge, it is the pinnacle, is the panacea of the knowledge which is available to humanity. By accepting this Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita in our life, we bring transformation. So Bhakti is science, just like modern science. Except in Bhakti science, it works on our consciousness. It transforms us. It transformed me, and I can assure you by my experience, it will transform you. We have to not accept what is said in the Puranas blindly. We have to hear it and apply it. I assure you, you try this experiment. Whoever here doesn't have Bhagavatam, take Bhagavatam to your home. Read 15 minutes a day. After 2 weeks, if your heart doesn't transform, I assure you I can give you double the money back. But give it a try. No other scientist will claim that if you read their scientific book, you will have a transformation of heart, because it won't change. It will only change your wallet or your bank account, nothing else. You may become more crazy than what you were before. But if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the problems of lust, envy, greed will go away from your heart. That is the promise of Srila Vyasadeva. So Bhakti is a science which is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is the reason why Srimad Bhagavatam is the panacea of the knowledge available to human beings. So, message to all of you, bring Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam home. Read it and transform your life. So summarizing here, Srila Vyasadeva has presented to us an impeccable history and the future of the universe. What's the proof? I provide 3 extraordinary proofs, and there's many more in the book. If you're not satisfied, if you want more details, it's available. My book, by the way, I'm not selling at some specific price. You can give whatever donation you like. You can pay as small as 50 cents. I'm a monk. I take donations. And second thing, it also provides life cycle of the sun and its processes, origin of the universe, very precisely. And in my book, I also talk about embryology. I talk about Ramayana. I talk about evolution also from the Puranic perspective, amongst many of the details, and much more in the book. So how he got this? Srila Vyasadeva got this knowledge from Krishna, as we discussed before. And this is Radha Kunj Bihari from Detroit, by the way. And what should we do? We should all run to the bookstore and get Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and read it and transform our life. Hare Krishna. So if anybody has any comments or questions, you're most welcome to share.
And Srimad Bhagavatam also explains how the sun's movement throughout the astrological science creates the weather and seasons.
Sure.
So I think you might have discussed this in your second.
I did not discuss. You know the reason for that?
Yes.
Because understanding weather is not a very intricate science. Understanding the movement of the sun, it is common across many ancient cultures. But when you talk about these details, I'm talking about exact numbers in billions of years. There is no other book in the material world which compares to this accuracy. So weather is weather, and the climate and the position of sun and moon, astrology, that is present in many ancient cultures. In that regard, Bhagavatam doesn't have something unique to say. But in this regard, what I shared here is there for sure. I understand that. But it is not which makes it stand apart. But when you look at this information, I'm looking for the Big Bang. I'm looking for the information which makes Srimad Bhagavatam stand as an extraordinary piece of evidence for its veracity. But thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
So you
Okay, I'll come to you.
Oh, she's
already speaking, but she had no mic. But you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'll just
Sorry,
try to
bro.
make it quick. You said Big Bang, but you also said Big
Bounce.
boom?
Big bounce.
Bounce.
Yeah, like bounce.
And that had to do with the implosion and
Yeah, it had to do with, so there was a universe before it, and that universe contracted, and it again inflated.
So that they're calling it a bounce.
Yeah, they call it big bounce. It's called cyclical universe. There's a
Okay.
Professor Penrose. He received Nobel Prize last year in physics, and he is a propounder also of cyclical universe. So there are many established scientists who accept that the universe is cyclical. It's not something which happened once, but it's there before also. Mother, Prabhu brought you mic.
It is said that all the knowledge is within us.
Right.
If we go deeper and deeper within, we can have access to all the Vedas and everything.
Sure.
So what do you suggest? Reading is more important, or going within, going deeper and deeper within is more important?
Very good. So like, do you have experience of raising kids?
Yes.
So, the ability to speak is within all the kids. But if you leave the kid alone in a room with no parents allowed, no society around, I don't think they will learn. It is there within the kid. It's innate. Similarly, the capacity to experience this knowledge is innate within us. But when we put ourselves in this wonderful association of devotees, then it comes out beautifully. So it is a matter of what we want. If we want our innate capability to come out quicker, if we want to associate ourselves with devotees, with books, it's like a help tool. And it will come out. You're right. We have all the knowledge inside us as souls.
Hare Krishna. I just have more of a remark. Like many faiths that I examine also struggle with lust, anger, and greed. Even when one reads the Bhagavad Gita, I think without controlling your senses and just from past experience, life experiences, I think if you don't practice the application, it doesn't matter if you're a believer of Sanatan, or if you want to call yourself Hindu or Islam or Buddhist. I think you still have to control your emotions while we're living, because we're all mortal right now. So you can read, but I think it's in the application, which is the struggle for most people. Because I know I personally still struggle with anger and greed and lust, and it's part to be human, but I mean, I don't know how many people will admit that. So thank you for your sermon.
Thank you for the honest remark. So in regards to you're sharing that, I want to repeat that. You're saying that, yes, I'm claiming that reading Bhagavatam transforms the heart, but it takes a long time. Sometimes it doesn't happen in a short period of time. In fact, I'll say two things. One, what I said is given the Bhagavatam itself, which we a prayer which we recite every day. Nashta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavat seva bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtaki. That if we take daily this medicine of Srimad Bhagavatam, then it works. If suppose we take a medicine, once in a while, once a week, once a month, so it's a matter of how much medicine we take. And we have to be honest. If you look back, at least if I look back in my life, I was suffering from a lot of lust, a lot of also greed for the longest time. But as I take more and more to my spiritual life, I notice that it is I'm shedding it more and more. So I have to also be a little more positive with myself and look back, how much progress I have made. One can be pessimistic, it's not going away, it's not going away. But we have to understand, it's millions of births which we have taken in this material world. It's not the first birth. We have had this impression of millions of births. So how do you expect things to work, overnight? But we can look back, say, a month ago. And I'll show you, to just try a month experiment, 2-week experiment. Read everyday Bhagavatam with devotees for 15 minutes, for half an hour. Just 1 month experience. And you note down your thoughts a month ago and a month later. You will see there is a recognizable difference. You're right, we need to control our senses. In fact, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoga Sharya Prasatanam Te Apata Chetasam. The ones whose senses are not controlled, he is not able to properly meditate. But being able to control senses is also Krishna's blessings. I mean, who here can say they can control the senses? Especially here in San Diego, where the beach is only like a mile away or less than a mile away. Good luck. We are living in the Western world, so this is very difficult. With phones, big machines right next on your pocket, how do you expect? Even for brahmachari it's difficult, but to say a grihastha. So you come into temple, hats off to you. I have difficulty myself controlling as a brahmachari my phones. So it's not an easy thing. It's a blessing from Krishna, and it comes as we strive on this process. The medicine is impeccable, but we have to apply, and it takes us time to apply. It's also mercy of the Lord. So it's very important that we have faith in this, keep coming to the community, keep associating with devotees. That is actually said to be the best medicine, is to keep associating with devotees. Sadhu Sangha is considered the root of devotion. Even if you lose faith in anything else, just keep coming to the programs, keep coming to meeting the devotees. And I can assure you, one day your faith in the Bhagavatam will become very strong. One day you will have strong sense control. And one day, this is the promise of Srila Prabhupada, we will experience love for Krishna. Mother Chatura.
And of course, all over the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada reminding us to chant around. Hare
Yes.
Krishna. And that could help with what he was saying.
Yes.
Okay. But secondly, are you connected with the TOBP in Sridham Mayapur? Because
Yes,
all this
Mother.
wonderful knowledge is what's going to help all the great scientists.
Yeah, actually this is one of my motivations. My Guru Maharaj is one of the Jayapataka Sai Maharaj. In 2017, he made this, since then he has been making this speech again and again, that if you can help with this project. So when I found this, I shared with him, and he was very happy, and he has been one of my biggest encouragement in this research and sharing this. So which is mercy, and Srila Prabhupada's mercy.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Here, yeah.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much. It is a fantastic talk. Myself, so-called PhD in organic chemistry,
Nice.
I have never heard or seen this kind of lecture. Personally, I don't have any doubt about our Ramayana, Mahabharata. NASA already proved. Your title says what NASA can learn from this talk. We have Setu Banda from Kanyakumari to Sri Lanka. It was not man-made. It is not a natural one. It is definitely man-made. So we have complete evidence for Ramayana.
Right.
Dwaraka is another clear evidence for Mahabharata. So personally, I don't have any doubts.
Yeah.
Maybe neophytes, they may find little challenging, but once they, as you said, when you read every day 15 minutes, they will get convinced. My question to you is, I know there is a lot of research going on origins of life. Personally, here in Scripps Research Institute in San Diego, there is a professor by name Yashan Mosher. He is working for more than 40 to 50 years about the combination of chemicals. There are only 23 amino acids. With that combination, only DNA, all the proteins,
Sure.
Everything is forming.
Yeah.
And he is doing for close to 40 years of research to find the right combination, right temperature, right atmosphere, doing research in space and everything.
Yes.
Can we learn anything from your experience? Is there any insight to this?
Well, it's interesting that there's no direct evidence for the origin of life, which is something which Prabhupada really talked about. He said, prove that life comes not from chemicals, but life comes from life. This is one of the things which Prabhupada told to His Holiness Srup Damodar Goswami Maharaj. That was the assignment he gave to him. And he was also told to take help from His Grace Navida Prabhu, who was supposed to assist him. And I think they worked together for a long time on this project. And they connected with a lot of different scientists who were of this opinion that yes, life couldn't come from chemicals. In fact, there were many articles. So if you look back at older Back to God magazines, and there is some Origins magazine, which has some articles from research done by Maharaj and Prabhu, where they talk with many of the esteemed scientists. But the thing is that with every decade, there's a new generation of asses or donkeys. And they have to be again retaught the same thing, because they come with new evidence why this is not the case, why atheistic should be there, why atheism should be supported. So I personally have not dug very deeply into the origin of the life. That's not a topic which I talked about. But we have an indirect evidence. What is the indirect evidence? The indirect evidence is that we talk about the beginning of the sun, the beginning of the solar system. And all these details which we talk about, if there was nobody alive at that time, how did they came up with this information? That means they have to accept that there are beings who have extraordinary capabilities, who are alive at the time of the sun. Otherwise, how was that information provided to Vyasadeva? So they will have to accept somehow or other a being of divine origin. And the moment you accept a being of divine origin, a book of divine origin, then you open a new chapter to have a discussion about. So maybe Dravida Prabhu can share more on that, but I don't have any specific research on origin chemistry or origin of life.
Raise a different issue.
Okay.
Because I remember when the fifth canto came out, every time a new canto came out, a new book came out, it would change the whole movement because devotees would read it. There's this new information, I remember reading the third canto, and I think teachings of Kapila Dev, were describing the embryo in the womb.
Yeah.
And I said, how the heck did they know that?
Yes.
Because it seems very close to what So that was the revelation. But there's also this question. Many of us read Krishna book every day or every other day and everything. You go through it many times. So recently I was reading, and Krishna had married somebody. I forget who he married. Was talking about his different marriages, and there was a dowry that was offered. And there was, so many elephants, and there's 100 times many more chariots as elephants, and you get up to like 60 million soldiers, whatever it is.
Right.
And then I said, because I'm not going to doubt. Somehow it's true.
Yes.
But I can easily see how, and this actually happened historically. Two of Prabhupada's preachers, this is the old days in the 70s, and they came in with a passage from the Krishna book, and they said, Srila Prabhupada, how can we possibly present this in the universities? 60, I think it was 30 quadrillion tutors for something like that.
Quadrillion servants of Ugrasen.
That's it.
That's what we're talking about.
Where are they going to? How can they have lunch? So what do we do with things like when we come across that? Because it seems like this is too fantastic.
Yeah.
That's not. It's not bothering me. Somehow it's true. But people who are just reading for the first time or scientific-minded, what do we do with things like that?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prabhu. And you already know the answer, but you kindly give me the opportunity to share. So thank you, Prabhu. Because Dravida Prabhu is known to be amazingly intelligent and at the same time being poet. It takes a lot of art to be having such a sharp intellect, at the same time having a very soft heart. And if you see his writings, his poems, it's just a piece of art. They just melt your heart. So Prabhu just gave me an opportunity. So we're very grateful to have Dravida Prabhu here with us.
Like I like to say in the class, by the way, we give class 3 nights a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 7:15, and we always have a poem at the end with. And like I say, if you want my poems, it'll cost you. You gotta send me an email. That's the whole cost. So I don't charge anything. So Dravida108@gmail, and I'll send you my poetry file, and you may like it. I got a nice advertisement there.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, while I answer this question, my friend Giridhari Prabhu is going to pass these books around. Giridhari Prabhu, can you pass these books around? If you like to keep it, you can keep it. And as I say, I just ask, you can take a look at the book while I answer the questions. And I just ask for donation. It can be anything you like to give. So to answer Prabhu's question, first of all, who here knows what does quadrillion means? How many zeros are there in quadrillion? 1,000? Yeah, okay, but how many zeros? 12? No. How many in a billion? How many zeros in a billion? 9. Okay. How many in a trillion? How many in a quadrillion now? 15. 10 raised to the power 15. That's the number we're talking about. Can you pass the books now to everybody? So 10 raised to the power 15. That many people are said to be in the court of Ugrasen. What to say of anybody else? They're just his security guards. In the small city of Dwarka, if I were to give, one time I calculated it, if I were to give everybody a small house to he's a soldier in Ugrasen's army, he should at least get a house, at least a flat. It will take up the whole earth, just, the space which we have on the earth. without any oceans. You have to build houses on the ocean also. That's just for the people who are his soldiers. So if that is the number of people we have, how do we understand it? So we want to go back to the first section which I talked about, which is how to understand anything which is given in the Purāṇas, especially in regards to Bhumandala. Here you go. So Bhumandala is the 7th loka from the top in this Brahmanda, and Bhumandala has many features which you won't find here. Why? Because Bhumandala is a higher dimensional feature. And why do I claim that? Because if you look at the features which are described there, the 7 oceans, an ocean of milk, an ocean of liquor, and all the mothers here know about milk, that if you leave the milk outside for overnight, what happens to it? It becomes curdled. So if you have an ocean of milk, what will happen to it? It will become an ocean of curd. It won't remain an ocean of milk. So it won't work. So anything, whatever is described in the 5th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, that is the vision of Sri Shukadeva Goswami, which is unfortunately not available to us. So, and our earth is a small cross section of that higher dimensional Bhumandala. That means Dwarka is there in Bhumandala, Dwarka is here, but we only have access to a small of it. If we want to see the whole Dwarka, what do we have to do? Do Bhakti Yoga. As we do more and more Bhakti Yoga, we become aware of what is there really around us. It is just like, if any of you have seen Harry Potter, who has seen Harry Potter here? In a Harry Potter movie, there's a famous scene where Harry Potter is being walked by one of his teachers to a house, and this house is like a number which is missing in the street. Do you remember this scene? And he goes there, and his teacher does some like a magic, and the 2 houses start separating, and the middle house comes in. So similarly, as we chant more Hare Krishna, as we read Srimad Bhagavatam, when we go next time to Vrindavan, we will have a more transcendental experience. Vrindavan won't remain anymore a place of sewage. It will become a place of beauty. Dwarka won't remain anymore just some concrete jungle, but it will become palaces of Krishna. So the process for seeing the real Bhumandala is given in the Bhagavatam. And until then, we have to trust the Bhagavatam, what is said in the Bhagavatam. Until then, we have to trust the opinion of acharyas and apply this process. It's not blind. You apply the process and you can see yourself. Is it okay, David Prabhu? You want to add something? You can probably add something more to it, Prabhu, please. Your mic is there.
Well, I think that's really the essence of it, is that we have to recognize that our ability, our senses are so covered in the conditioned state. And this is the big mistake of the scientists, is that they just take it for granted that if we can apply our present intelligence and find out the truth. But there's an inevitable covering of illusion that misinforms their conclusion. So like you're saying, we need to develop the senses, the acuity of the senses through the purification project, so that we can see these things going on in higher dimensions and like that. And we have to have faith in that. And I think the key element of developing that faith is exposing ourselves to of course the books of Prabhupada, but also the other acharyas. And we say, well, they all believed it, these towering intellects like Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Sakyasiddhanta Srila Prabhupada, and who are we to doubt it? In other words, we need to develop our faculties so that we can also see and hear in this transcendental state. That's the point.
Thank you, Bodhi. Hare Krishna. So if there's no more question, then we can close here. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, and Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Yeah. I have one here. Hare Krishna.
Yes, please clap. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for coming. Thank you for visiting. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for sharing these books. So with the books, we passed out a number, so people are looking at them. Now, if they'd like to keep the book, what should they do? Should they give a donation to
they can give
where?
a donation to me or Giridhari. I'll be standing here by the projector. If you'd like to leave a donation. If you want to steal it, no problem. I won't lose much. And if you'd like to give it back, also you can give it back me here.